What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Seen this video and I had to check it out. It's what are some American stereotypes in Europe? So if you're living in Europe, do you see a lot of American stereotypes that you probably have heard or seen in America, and now people maybe bring it back to Europe? Now some Europeans are living those American stereotypes. Let me know in the comments below. We finna check this out. Y'all hit that subscribe button and send down those recommendations.
What are some American stereotypes in Europe? Wearing running shoes with literally everything. And tall white socks. The uniform for 20 to 40-year-old American in Dublin is souvenir cap, university hoodie, cargo or sports shorts, long white socks and running shoes. Sometimes the womenfolk will go for a different color of athletic sock. Souvenir cap is usually Guinness or some stupid phrase like "Kiss me, I'm Irish."
What?
With a bottle opener on it. Fuck, I thought of that but I forgot to type it. Or flip-flops. And
Not
cargo
the
shorts. And cargo socks.
What?
Better than high heels on the cobblestone of Prague. This is totally an Eastern European, though now more Western as well, fashion with young women as well. The chunky white sneakers or flashy Nikes are everywhere. The American stereotype probably mostly comes from people being on holiday and walking 8 to 10 kilometers a day and wanting to be comfortable. Obsessed with how white their teeth look.
Oh,
This
man.
is actually pretty true. I think it has to do with dental plans being extra as opposed to the standard healthcare plan offered by most jobs. Only jobs with good benefits will offer it. Thus, white teeth becomes a status symbol.
Yes, because I've been seeing a lot of people. I want to say they're called like some type of dentures, where they can either like put like the little new fake white teeth in, or they use the little light thing to whiten up your teeth or something like that. I've been seeing a lot of that too, but I I don't know. Most people say they do it overseas as well. Like they go overseas to the dentist and get that done because it's better. But some people look like they just got big white teeth or something.
Fat. Loud. Ignorant of anything outside the US.
Name.
Love guns, Jesus and cars, but shitty drivers. Nice, but often in a shallow way. Nice, but often in a shallow way. A classic. American, how are you doing? Other person, oh, good thanks that you ask, I have to tell you about, blah blah. American, why didn't this person just say good? I don't want to hear this. That might just be the way they talk though. Here we often use you alright? Or alright? As a greeting, and it's more of a hello than an actual query about how they're doing. And in America, you alright? Is used as more of a serious inquiry than a greeting.
All right.
Understandable. In Ireland we say how are ye? As a greeting, but usually just expect the same thing back instead of an answer. Fat, stupid,
Dang.
ignorant, overly patriotic. If a German, for example, would be patriotic as average American is, he would be called Nazi.
Oh.
That's because a lot of Americans really speak similarly to Nazis. They do have this creepy ritual at schools that really reminds me of the Hitlerjugend. They just replaced the Führer with a flag. What's that?
The Pledge of
Allegiance. Hand on heart in front of the flag, every morning. Could you imagine
Dang.
that happening in the UK? I mean, A, no one in Scotland would do it. B, let's not even mention Nice. We're acutely aware of the problems of this kind of thing, so it'd probably never happen in the first place. Completely agree. I think it's come from this idea that the US is the great melting pot where people from all over come to and become American, but it is pushing a really weird nationalistic ideology. And my parents won't even stand up for God Save the Queen.
Not God
Well, it's
Save
a
the
melting
Queen.
pot in the sense that they want you to melt your cultural identity and join their conglomerate. Can you imagine the headlines if children in Russia were doing this? Putin grooms generation of nationalist
my
fanatics. As
I
someone
feel like if you think about it, if other kids in other countries were doing it, I feel like you'll be broadcast in the USA about it being a bad thing instead of like. I feel like they'll be broadcast being a bad thing, then forget to look at ourselves as like, oh, we make our kids do the same thing. It would be a double standard. I feel like the things that in the U.S. what we get in the news it's always double standard just because like they point out certain things that other countries are doing and forget we do the same thing. At least when it comes to what we see not right, most times US do the same thing, you know, and being on the outside looking in, most people on the outside looking into the US is like, why are y'all doing that? That's not right either, you know? So it's a crazy world.
Putin grooms generation of nationalist fanatics. As someone who moved from Germany to the United States, my first day in high school felt like I had joined a cult. The Pledge of Allegiance is honestly so weird, and there were some people really offended that I didn't participate, due to not knowing the words at first, and then not wanting to say it. If it makes you feel any better, at my school people hardly recited the pledge, the most they do is stand. This was recently, so I think all the students and teachers just stopped giving a shit.
I ain't gonna lie. Most kids, they just stand up. They'll probably still just look at the flag, but they don't recite it anymore. I don't think most kids would care to say it, but yeah, back then. But when I was younger, we had to say it. They even had the words on the wall for us to read. Even if you couldn't read, you better say something.
This was recently, so I think all the students and teachers just stopped giving a shit, but if you purposefully ignored the whole thing or sat down, then you were making a scene out of it, and that's when you really got in trouble. If you think that's bad, kids in Texas have to do both the US Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. Kids used to do this in Portugal, during the dictatorship years. Oh yeah, that is really creepy. We had nothing even remotely akin to that here. I've said this before, but it seems as if the way Europeans view Americans is the way Americans view Texans. I usually defend this sub on /Ask America when I think they are being a bit hypersensitive to comments made here. But this lot are being brutal. They did ask what stereotypes Americans have rather than what we really think. As an American who browses this sub on a daily basis, this thread is nothing new, I'm honestly used to it by now. Yeah, they're stereotypes to be taken with a grain of salt though, and not reflective of actual Americans. Fat. Loud. Ignorant of the world.
Nice.
Guns. 100% over the top patriotism. Fake smile, but will still act interested in chatting. I wonder where they got that one from. What if I were to tell you, the smile is not fake? Then I want the pills you are taking. Please. Fat, overly capitalistic.
Hey, I honestly thought this video was gonna be like, it said some stereotypes in American stereotypes in Europe. I thought it was gonna be like some Europeans acting like American type, you know? Cause you know how sometimes you see a person do certain things and all that, and all of a sudden you realize that you start acting like that person type. This is basically just giving us American stereotype.
Government hating, circumcised, think you can solve everything with guns, overly triggered. Circumcised. Based on my interactions with Europeans IRL, I'm not sure this is really common knowledge. It comes up on Reddit a lot more than in pretty much any other context. You'd think people would learn from Mun, but I really feel like when it did come up in conversation, most of my German friends were unaware of that fact. I remember seeing an episode of Sex and the City when I was around 18 or 19 where Charlotte, I think, freaks out because a guy isn't circumcised, so I went to Google the difference and realized I hadn't even ever seen one that was. I have no idea how it got to be such a thing in America. Prudish, materialistic, self-centered. The thing where nudity is taboo but guts being ripped out and general violence is okay is weird. This one is weird to us as well, at least in the metro areas. Although to be fair, compared to you guys everyone is a prude lol. Fat. Way too patriotic. Completely ignorant about what happens outside the US.
Facts.
Gun nuts. Super religious. Arrogant. Having scooters in supermarkets. Why is this though?
Oh no, this is the first time. This is the first time I've seen that. This one definitely a new one. Having scooters in supermarkets. Really, those scooters really supposed to be like for disabled people, like, you know, broken leg or can't really walk too long, I would say. Probably can't walk around the store too long, you know, feet hurt type, you know. Yeah, that's what it's really for. Have for those people that are disabled and stuff like that. But let's continue. Let's hear what they have to say.
Arrogant. Having scooters in supermarkets. Why is this though? Most of the times you see fatsos in them.
Dang.
We do know these are stereotypes though. We know that many Americans are actually not hostile.
Yeah, my heavy set friend. Most of it just depends. It depends on the person condition though for those scooters for sure. But I mean, if you're most kids want to get in because they think you can. They just want to drive around. Most kids, but those are really created for people that just, especially they're in bigger stores. Like they're not in like small stores that you can just get in and out in. But like the WalMarts, we have like family grocery stores that are pretty big, and those are the only places that have those scooters. But the smaller stores, they don't. They don't.
People who generally use the scooters are fat people who can't walk themselves for their entirety of their store visit. But in all fairness, the scooters were originally designed for disabled people for other reasons such as elderly/handicapped, so I guess there were good intentions. Sadly, only obese people really use them.
Bang.
It's really embarrassing to have as an image for our country though. I broke my leg once and tried using a scooter at Walmart. I was told it was for the disabled and elderly. Like, do you see this cast and crutches? But no, have to give it up to the fat lady who has a mini solar system revolving around her filled with her annoying children. Completely ignorant about what happens outside the US. Not that this is wrong, most American news is very America-centric, but I often find when Europeans say this what they mean is we don't know enough about Europe. I wonder how many Americans and Europeans could tell me what's happening in Nicaragua right now. I wonder what Americans think when they read this thread. It's just stereotypes. I'm always amused when people think our friendliness is fake. It isn't. Eric US will strike up conversations with strangers anywhere and everywhere in the US. I don't see why we would behave any differently overseas. Also, a lot of Americans never have the opportunity to travel outside of the US because it's expensive. That adds to our self-centered attitude. Edit, we're fat because we don't walk anywhere. I knew a woman that had been living in Rotterdam. She came here for 6 months and put on weight because she wasn't biking or walking anymore. It wasn't feasible. American here. I'd say majority are fair. It is a thread about stereotypes after all. Though I consider the Spanish and Italians, especially young ones, to be way louder than Americans. But I guess I'll save that for the counter thread that will probably pop up a few hours from now. What are you talking about, bro? Screams while gesturing. Individually no. Put a group of 3+ of you together? Vesuvius erupted. I feel like Spanish and Italians are louder within their circles, which is annoying on its own. But Americans are loud in like interactions with strangers? Cannot really point it out, but it's different. Not that either is more obnoxious. I can vouch for that. On that note, Portuguese are loud on the phone. And they insist on doing it while using public transportation.
Okay, so we got, so we see that America is not the only loud ones. So if you're Portuguese, if you're Spanish, Italian, y'all let me know if what they saying is true. I'll let y'all vouch for yourself on this one because, we always hear that Americans are loud, but now people pointing out some other ones. We got Portuguese, we got Italian, got the Spanish. So y'all let me know what you think. But I mean, when it comes down to it, like he said, these are just stereotypes. Are you going to see some sometime? Yes. You might just, once in a blue moon, though. Like, if you coming down for a couple of days, you probably won't get it. But if you here for a week or so, you're probably going to see some type of stereotype and be like, oh, there it is. Oop, what that song? Oop, there it is.
Guilty. We expect it to be a quick phone call. It never is. Well, the loudest persons I've met were Americans ladies. They were very obviously spending their spring break in Reykjavik, but holy crap, they were so fucking noisy in the sauna. An American dude apologized on their behalf. I felt so bad for him. Put some American girls together and add alcohol, and that is about as loud as it gets in my experience.
This is a fact.
American here. Looks at Flair suspiciously. TBH, I would take American loud any day to Spanish loud. Americans they just talk like that, meanwhile Spanish people at my uni become obnoxious. They're accurate stereotypes. But just like any stereotype, anyone who actually spends a significant amount of time in the US would see that they're generally not true. Vocal minority and all that jazz. At the end of the day they are just stereotypes, and not a cause for offense. They do make me think that most Europeans in this thread are pretty uninformed about America in general,
hate Americans.
though. They think we're just jealous. Loud. Yeah, that checks out, especially when drunk, though anyone who thinks this has obviously never been to Spain or seen Europeans watch football. Gun-crazy Jesus lovers, who hardly realize there is a real world outside the USA. So from reading the comments, mostly negative.
That's a fact. That definitely was mostly negative. What was the first one? Oh, nice. But yeah, that's just one of those, the stereotypes. Like I said, it really just depends, because you could possibly see one of those stereotypes, maybe on your first visit, maybe depending on how long you here on a visit. Do I see it every day? Are you gonna see it every day? Probably not. But hey, if you're looking for it, you're definitely gonna find it. But that's all I have. Like I said, I thought this was gonna be about like some Europeans acting like Americans type thing when it comes to going after visiting America, going back home and acting American type, But I guess not. That's all I have for this video. Y'all make sure y'all hit that subscribe button, send down those recommendations, and y'all be blessed, be the best, and be you. I'm out.